welcome to my channel where I'm playing with inks, I'm writing my books, and sometimes I do research. And one of the journals that I haven't featured in any of the videos yet is my Commonplace journal. And this is a very fiery red Leuchtturm that I found on sale in my local TJ Maxx, and it is actually sort of ruled, squared, not ruled, and I usually don't use those. So I thought, why not create a Commonplace journal, because that distinguishes the function of this journal from any others. And today I actually want to transcribe some research that I did for an upcoming project on linen growing or flax growing and linen processing. So yeah, join me while I'm transcribing everything into this journal. Let's see if I find a header. So this is linen growing and processing. Today is the and because I actually have some also looked at images of flax flowers online, and because I have an ink in my Celia Pro Gear Harozora at the moment that is very close in color to linen flowers, and so linen flowers are absolutely beautiful, and so yeah, I wanted to have 5 petals. These little they're not quite like cherry blossom. And apparently they only last for a day and then they fade. Yeah, it's a bit of a weird looking one. But yeah, just some do one at the bottom of the page too. Some very simple doodles. Yeah, here we go. To transcribe the main information, I'm going to use my Black Robin pens. This is the Grand Arial model in the color Caffeine Withdrawal, and it's inked up with Octopus Fluids Charleston. And the reason I wanted to transcribe it is because I've looked at a couple of websites, watched a couple of YouTube videos, and some of the information is sort of doubled. And I like to have like one place where the research goes. And one of the reasons why I wanted to know more about the process is because this project that I'm researching for is set in a linen growing area, and I wanted to know so roughly how long stuff takes. So, and for sewing flax, when you, for fibers, sew close together, encourage height, and for seeds, so further apart, wider spread, and then also like more seed capsules. They're sowed in March. It takes about 100 days to be ready for harvest. And then if you want them for fiber, you uproot them to keep most of the length intact. And then you red them, so they're spread out on wet grass to help the fiber separate from the outer, tougher, not skin, but sort of the outer layer of the stalk, and that needs to be broken up. You can also red them in ponds, but that's apparently not as desirable, because then you can basically poison or influence your water supplies. And then what else? Then going to be dried after. And then, yeah, all parts of the flax plants are used for textiles, paper, varnish, oil, animal fodder, and food. And then if you leave the roots in, for example, if you would harvest them for, I don't know, flaxseed, for for food for humans and animals, if you leave the roots in, they fertilize the soil. Okay. And dried, and then they're stooked. So they're basically put into little pyramids with like as much airflow through them. And yeah, and dried. And then which number were we? Oh, can't remember. 5. And then the outer layers on the fiber are broken. And then they're separated. And they're hackled, so basically combed. And finally they're spun. And I know from sort of personal experience, because I've spun linen before, that you are supposed to keep them, the fibers, rather damp. And they're quite hard on the fingers if you're not used to it. And they need quite like the spinning wheel needs to have quite a lot of twist. You also harvest the plants a bit earlier if you want the fiber to be softer. And you let them mature a bit longer if you want something coarser. Let's see if I have anything else. And apparently it was quite quite normal for people to have like a little patch of flax somewhere in their gardens for sort of their own use. And yeah, sort of, so why I'm like, the idea that I have is to set it in a landscape that's quite close to sort of the area, like climate-wise, where I grew up. And where I grew up, the soils were not that great, and it was traditionally a very poor area. And linen doesn't need particularly rich soil, so it's something that can be grown with. You don't need so much to get a good yield out of it, as far as as I understand. So it is actually very good for these type of areas, and in sort of cooler climates it also works really well, because then you have the dew in the morning that you can just leave them in the fields. You don't have to put them in ponds or like into standing water. And that might give you like something more of an insight into my process. Because I'm doing fiber arts as well, and like spinning and dyeing. So that's the crafts are something that I'm very interested in, and that they also feature a lot in my books. So researching sort of a bit more about stuff that just happens all the time. And I'm now very glad that I have a commonplace book. Yeah, and also I never really used the contents in the Leuchtturms before, and now I can actually use the contents, which is great. So yeah, I think that was page 19. No, actually 21. Page 21. And then little research. So yeah, it's mainly notes, but also sometimes I have like my never inked list sort of comes. And I decided to have this margin for me to go back in and then make notes on the notes. That was of the idea, to use the margins for like later use when I look back at the notes. I might just put some more linen flowers all over this page. But thank you so much for joining me. This was sort of a more unusual video for me. I've never done something like this before, but yeah, if you're interested in sort of what I'm researching for my stuff, let me know and I can take you along a few more times. As I said, I've tried a great many sort of more medievalish crafts. There's a few I still want to try, like Sprung, which is sort of where it's almost like one of those veggie nets, for groceries or for produce. But yeah, that's like a very specific technique. I haven't tried that one yet. But apart from that, I've weaving, tablet weaving, needle binding, embroidery, lots of stuff. Dyeing, and it will pop up in the books, and it's always great fun. Thank you so much for being here, and see you soon.